Hello everybody, I am Insomniac and today we're taking a look at Warlord. Warlord is a heavy fighter and he is supposed to be of medium difficulty to play, as well as he is categorized as a harasser and counterattacker. And what all of that means, I'm gonna show you in this video. As always when I'm doing these types of videos, I'm first gonna take a look at the moveset of the character and tell you all of their moves first. And as you can see right here, Warlord only has two chains. Those chains are light into heavy or heavy into light. And that's the only two chains that he gets, but as that already indicates, Warlord is not about his chains. And in my personal opinion, he only has those two chains because his moveset all around is so stacked, he would be good without these chains. Obviously, if Warlord didn't have any chains, he'd be very clumsy to fight as. And already with only those two chains that are either light heavy or heavy light, he already feels clumsy if you're just spamming buttons, which is already a bad idea, but I mean, it takes some getting used to playing as Warlord. But with that out of the way, those are his only two chains, as in attack buttons only. He has a lot more confirmed damage off of a lot of things, and we're going to take a look at those first. So, he has Head Splitter Leap or Head Splitter Leap Alternate, which are his jump in heavies. So when you're running around or towards an enemy and you press heavy, you do this jump attack. And the same thing goes when you're locked on. You can press dodge and heavy very quickly together and you do this jump heavy. Now, although this is a cool looking move and it covers a lot of distance and it has really good tracking, it's a very easy parry for your opponent, so don't use this extensively. As a matter of fact, try to avoid using this move often. But if you end up using it anyways and it connects for some reason, there's a Head Splitter Leap combo, which as you can see on screen is, you first have to do the Head Splitter Leap, which is dash forward and heavy, and then you can either whiff that or hit it, and you can confirm that into a guard break, which then does a headbutt, and you can confirm that headbutt into a light attack, but only on hit. And that looks something like this. And although this looks really easy to do as by the inputs right here, the timing for it is very strict. There's not a lot of wiggle room in which you can just press these buttons, especially if you're trying to spam the moves. This won't work. You really have to get used to the timing. And this is a general thing about Warlord. His inputs are really easy, but the timing for stuff is very strict. For example, I can't just spam the headbutt and then try the light. As you can see right here, this was me spamming and it didn't work. And you get a regular light instead, which the enemy can then parry. Whereas this light right here, the opponent can't parry. They can maybe block it if you're off timing, but that should be a combo. This combo is all about confirming the last two parts. If the first one doesn't connect, you can still do the headbutt, but you have to confirm the light. Because even on whiff, this light won't come out and you're left open in a recovery state that your opponent can take advantage of. So be aware of that. But besides this Head Splitter Leap combo, he also has some different things. For example, I've gone over the Crushing Charge, which is his other run attack. He doesn't have a run light attack, but he has a run guard break, but instead of guard breaking, you push your opponent around with your shield. And you can adjust the direction of where you want to push them whilst you're running, and you can also change for how long you want to push them, but the range for it is great, especially if you can push them into a wall, for example, because then you can get some damage off that. But we're gonna talk about his confirms in a little while. Besides his Head Splitter Leap combo, that is basically jump in heavy into headbutt into light, he can do the headbutt immediately, and obviously you will know that if you've ever fought against him, as this is extremely frustrating to verse against, but due to the recent patch, the timing for that has been made a little bit easier to get out of. As you can see down here, headbutt is forward dash plus guard break, and that looks something like this. Now there is a combo associated to this, which is called headbutt combo, obviously, and as you can see, if the guard break button input hits, or basically the headbutt itself, you can press light attack, and that is a combo. Same thing as the jump in headbutt combo. It's really not all too special, but the thing is, this is really frustrating as it is quite quick and hard to avoid, and as you can see it doesn't take a lot of stamina and you can do it really quickly. Then we have full block stance. This is something that Warlords don't seem to use all too often, but I have to say the full block stance on Warlord is really good for a variety of reasons, and one of which I'm gonna show you later. As you can see right here, this is what full block stance looks like. It takes some stamina to initiate, and then your stamina slowly drains over time for as long as you are in this stance, and obviously as soon as you run out of stamina you will have to go out of full block stance, and if your opponent hits you in full block stance it takes away even more of your stamina. Now, full block stance is not just full block stance as a move, there is also a lot of things you can do off it. There's 3 things that you can do off a full block stance, and I can't demonstrate all of them on a level 0 bot because the opponent actually has to hit the full block stance for this, but one thing you can do even without your opponent hitting your shield. So if you go into full block stance and you press heavy, you get this attack right here. This is not a mix-up as in, is your opponent not going to hit you? You can do this really quickly, or well, I say quickly. It's not like you can go into it and immediately press it, but the thing is, even if I have a different attack direction to where the heavy comes from, if I press full block stance into heavy, it will always come from my left or your opponent's right. But this is a really hard parry as the heavy is actually really fast. If this heavy connects on opponent that would be dead with one hit, like if they had critical health and regenerate and you hit this heavy, you can get an execution of that. So this heavy does 25 damage at least. I don't know the exact damage values for him just yet, but I'm gonna edit in how much this heavy does. There are 2 other things that you get after full block stance, one being the guaranteed light combo, which I'm going to demonstrate later on, as well as you can do a headbutt into this same light. But the thing is, right here it says you can go full block stance and then press Godbreaker at any given time and you get the headbutt, but if I were to do that right now, nothing happens. You can even hear me spamming the Godbreak button. Nothing happens. And that's because in the last patch that I've already made a video about, they have changed Warlord so that he can only do the headbutt if he gets hit in his full block stance, which is a really welcome change, as previously this option right here, the headbutt riposte, used to be the one really broken trait. He still has a lot of dirt, I'm gonna be honest here. He still is one of the best turtlers and one of the best turtle breakers in this game, and this is basically what defines a really good character. What defines a good character in this game is basically, if you are a really good turtle character, then your defensive options are really good, and Warlord's defensive options are not really good, they are amazing, but that alone doesn't help you if your opponent is trying to turtle himself, as no one will attack each other. But Warlord, in those neutral situations as you would call them, can just open any defensive character, and this is really the reason why Warlord is one of the best characters in the game, as he is one of the best turtlers and one of the best characters to break turtling characters. But yeah, the headbutt riposte has been changed so that you can't just full block stance and no matter what happens you would win with a headbutt. Now we're gonna switch over to the hero specific traits before I show off these 2 moves, and as always we don't give a damn about renown and revenge mode in those hero specific traits because, well, those are not hero specific, are they? Anyhow, Warlord has a few really strong traits, but only 3 of them, but that makes sense because his move list is already really extensive and really strong. If he had a lot of strong traits as well, that would make him grossly overpowered, and in my opinion he is not overpowered, he's just really annoying to fight against. He might not be overpowered, but he is really strong. We have superior block light attacks, which means that the light attacks have superior block property during their startup, and this is used to counter attacks. Now, if you were to look at Warlord's shield closely, if I do a light attack, you can see how it flashes golden for a short period of time, and this basically means that if my opponent attacks and I time my light attacks just right, my opponent will hit the shield and I counter strike them with the light attack, almost the same way that Warden's top light works, but Warlord can do one better. They work from any direction if you look closely. The thing is just, Warden would get a damage increase after hitting the counter strike, where Warlord does not. He does just as much much damage on any of his light attacks, whether they were superior blocks or not, but this makes it so that you don't always have to go for parries. You can sometimes even press light attacks. I don't know why you would want to do that, as your damage on the light attacks is not really comparable to those of your parry moves, but if you wanted to do that, you can. But so this is not really a trait that you're going to try to execute often. This is something that comes into handy when you don't really expect it to. So if you wanted to harass your opponent with your fast light attacks, Warlord has fast light attacks in order to be effective with this trait. That's basically what they had to give Warlord in order to do this consistently. This is not really a trait that you're trying to execute all too often. This will just happen randomly in your favor if you wanted to harass your opponent with your fast light attacks, but they get frustrated and then throw a light attack out themselves, and you just happen to superior block them, which means you don't trade on your light attacks. If timed correctly, you get the hit yourself. But speaking of trading attacks, the next trait is really for trading hits, as Warlord has uninterruptible heavy attacks, and that means that heavy attacks are uninterruptible during their startup, and if you time them well, you trade blows with your enemy, which are often in your favor because some of the heavies actually do a lot of damage. As you can see, the top heavy is quite fast, and this is also the best damage you get after a regular guard break, as the top heavy is guaranteed. And your side heavies are slower, but they deal more damage. Just a little bit more damage though. But one interesting thing is, you know that Warlord has light heavy and heavy light chains, and his light attacks have superior block properties and his heavies are uninterruptible. And the funny thing is, if you do the light heavy chain, you see how the light attack has superior block and how the heavy is uninterruptible, indicated by the flash of the armor. But if you were to do the heavy light, you see that the heavy is uninterruptible, but the light doesn't have superior block properties. Now, I am not sure if it really doesn't have superior block properties, but the shield doesn't flash golden if you look closely, which leads me to believe that there is no superior block property on the second chain light of hack and slash. Please let me know in the comments down below, but as far as I know, the combo light doesn't have superior block properties no matter what direction it comes from. Yeah, and the last trait obviously is full block stance right here. Full block stance means that no matter what direction your opponent attacks from, you'll block them all. And as I've said before, this requires stamina to activate and drain stamina when started and on block. This is not something where you just sit there and wait for your opponent to hit you. If you do this in a neutral situation, your opponent will definitely not hit your shield. Nobody is dumb enough to do that. So this is something that you have to do on reaction. If you were to initiate your full block stance, you can still tech guard breaks. Once you fully are in full block stance, it is impossible for you to tech guard breaks as far as I know. It is either that I'm too slow, or it really is impossible. Again, let me know down in the comments below if this is not true, but as far as I know, if you're in full block stance, you can't tech guard breaks. And those were already all of his traits. As you can see, he doesn't have a lot of traits, but then again, he doesn't need many of them. In fact, the only two that you're really going to notice are uninterruptible heavy attacks on full block stance, and the superior block light attacks are just a novelty thing that he has as well. Yeah, so let's demonstrate his parry moves. And again, as for a reminder, he has two parry moves, which are a shield counter combo with the light, but he has a second, in that sense, combo, and I'm gonna explain that later, not with a light attack, but with a heavy attack that is not listed here, which I find odd, but it still is a thing. So let's show these off. First, the light combo. And as you can see right here, when I parry my opponent and I hit them with the shield, I drain a lot of their stamina. Most of the time it is enough stamina drain to fully get them out of stamina, but that is for a trade-off, as the guaranteed hit that you get after that is a light attack that doesn't do a lot of damage. The thing with the shield counter combo is that if you parry your opponent's attack and you get the shield counter, they are most likely going to be out of stamina completely, depending on what attack they did. There are a few exceptions to this, but most of the time this will get your opponent out of stamina or with a maximum of 5 stamina left or something stupid it like that. So this is really, really strong if you want to get your opponent out of stamina and stress them out. Because as soon as your opponent is out of stamina from this parry, you can do headbutts and you don't have to worry about them attacking you. They can still dodge. What you can do then is just guard break them. And obviously if they're out of stamina, you can throw them on the ground, which there are two confirms that you can do. You can either do the leap combo, or you can throw them on the ground close to a wall and try to go for maximum damage, which is a side heavy into light attack. However, this is very hard to do and it requires specific situation in order for you to be able to hit the maximum damage. So the leap combo works every single time and the damage difference is only 12, so yeah. The shield counter makes it so that your opponent is dizzied and loses a lot of their stamina, and you can chain that shield counter into a light attack for a little bit of damage for your trouble. The timing for the light is really strict, and I don't use the light too often because you can chain this into a heavy attack as well, which looks something like this. The heavy attack is not completely guaranteed. If your opponent was in the right guard stance before I do the parry, they can block the heavy, but if they are in the wrong guard stance, they can't block the heavy on the reaction. So this heavy should hit, and it did. So this is really, really weird in the sense that you only get the heavy hit if they are in the right guard stance. As you can see, that didn't hit as he was in the right guard stance before. I find it weird that you can confirm this shield counter into a heavy, but it is not listed on here as well. And the heavy does at least 25 damage, as after this parry you would get an execution from that. So that is really, really strong. But the thing that I have to tell you as well is, even though it says parry guard break light, you have to press guard break really quickly before you can get the hit. The window that you have to get shield counter instead of a regular guard break is as long as your opponent's weapon still touches your sword in the parry animation. You have to be really quickly pressing that, and if you are just a little bit too slow, you get a guard break. Sometimes the guard break is more desirable, as Warlord gets a lot of things after his guard break. For example, after the guard break, Warlord gets a top heavy, or he has really, really, really great throw range. Something else as well, if you're in a situation like this one, this can sometimes happen. If you are next to the wall like this, and your left side is right next to a debris or something, and you try to get the heavy confirm of it, it will happen a lot that your attack hits the wall and won't go through to hit your opponent, and that is missed damage. So if you are next to the wall, or you think that your heavy attack will hit some sort of obstacle, go for the light combo or a guard break, as your opponent is dizzied after the shield counter. And what is weird about the light combo is that you have to press guard break really quickly, but you have to wait with your light attack. You only get the light attack combo if the shield has already finished its animation, and the window for that is quite small, but if you do it correctly, this is a combo. So yeah, those are his parry moves. And now to his full block stance moves. First, we're gonna look at the heavy. As you might were able to tell, the full block stance has superior block as well, even though it doesn't say it right here. And if you press it fast enough, the heavy is a guaranteed hit if your opponent hits the shield with a heavy attack. And this heavy chains into execution like this. Warlord also has a full block stance light, which is guaranteed. But as you can see, the damage for it is miserable, considering that you can also get a heavy after it. And again, this was a recent change. He can also get a headbutt from full block stance, which guarantees the same light. Now, the last move that Warlord has is obviously his zone attack, and the zone attack is special in that it is a one-hitting zone attack. It has extremely great tracking and does above average damage, as every other zone attack in the game does 20 damage, but Warlord's actually does 25. As you can see right here, it does exactly 25 damage. So yeah, those were all of the moves. So let's talk about confirmed damage. If you want to guarantee a lot of damage after guard break, you would go for a top heavy. But if you can throw your opponent into the wall, you get any heavy attack depending on the attack direction that you had before. So as you can see, I was in a side direction, and that side direction heavy hit because of the wall stun. And if you looked closely as well, if you throw your opponent into the wall, they get dizzied off that wall bounce as well, which is something that is not explained in this move list, but it is a fact with Warlord. And even if they are out of stamina, if you hit them into the wall, they won't fall over. But you can also get wall bounces like this, where you bounce them into a wall from a distance. But one really great thing about Warlord's throw is that he has the best throw range in the game. As you can see, I can carry my opponent all the way back there. And something that is really hard to execute, but if your opponent is out of stamina, the max damage you can get is side heavy into light if you're close enough to the wall so that you won't be too far away from them. But this only comes very situational, as you have to be right next to your opponent to hit both attacks. But you can get very similar damage if you jump, headbutt, light. This does almost the same damage and is guaranteed every single time you do it, instead of having to do this all the time. So yeah, this is everything that I can show you with Warlord. Hope you learned something. If you did, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe for similar content like this. But as always, thanks again so much for watching. Hope I'll see you next time. Take care.